Welcome, everybody, to the WMMA Math Podcast, courtesy of WombatSports.com. And hi, Mountain. I am Mark the Q. I am your host. Quite a few things happened this past weekend. Later on, we'll have an interview with Natalya Speece, who is going to be fighting on the Fight Night card out in San Diego, which is an all-female amateur event. We'll talk a little about that when we get to her interview. First of all, like I said, busy week for us here on the podcast. I was at the PFL event Friday night, which was really, really cool. Was able to catch out the two semifinal fights of the PFL lightweight tournament. In an upset, Larissa Pachenko defeated Sarah Kaufman by unanimous decision. It was a very interesting fight. Larissa really showed up her wrestling that night. It was a little bit heartbreaking to see Kaufman lose, but it was great to be able to see Larissa kind of be in a redemption factor here in terms of her fight. She's the only person that ever took Kayla Harrison the distance, and that'll be the story going into the final as Kayla Harrison defeated last-minute replacement Bobby Joe Dazel by armbar in the first round. But it was interesting that Larissa would be making it to the finals versus Kayla. It'll be interesting to see if Kayla, really kind of pushes herself a little bit more to be able to try to finish Larissa. It'll also be interesting to see how Larissa kind of reacts and if, her continual rise of her experience ends up happening. So that final is going to be really, really cool. It'll be at Madison Square Garden the week of New Year's Eve. You guys can check that out. It'll be on NBCSN coming up the week of New Year's. So make sure you guys check that out as well. Speaking of the PFL, Kayla Harrison has re-upped her contract for the next few years for PFL. Jenna Fabian, who is supposed to be facing Kayla Harrison, will be taking part in the 2020 season. She had not been medically cleared to face Kayla this past week. She was in attendance at there to be able to watch the semifinals as well. I'm assuming that Sarah Kaufman will be re-upped, but there's been no word necessarily that Kaufman has been re-upped, but I am probably at 80-90% sure that she has been re-upped as well, so we'll have to take a look and see that as well. I'm pretty sure Larissa will be re-upped since she is a finalist in the season as well. I'm interested to see some of the new talent that PFL brings for the next year's tournament. Maybe they expand it to a full 16-fight tournament, or more. The more the merrier. Hopefully, we'll get a little bit more gals on that roster coming up next year, seeing the success of this year. That being said, coming up on Saturday was a crazy night for me as well, because there was two events that we did, PFL and Tuff-n-uff. 3 female fights on the Tuff-n-uff amateur card. Our previous guest, Chelsea Ray, sorry to say, lost by TKO in 11 seconds. She lost to Anisha Rags in a really anticipated MMA debut. Sydney Slick defeated Brandy Buckley by decision. Sydney Slick has been training MMA since she was in her teens, so I was really interested to see kind of where she's at in terms of her pro debut. We may have her as a guest coming up, hopefully within the next few months. In the first female bout on the card, part of the Wimp to Warrior series, Michaela Michelle Brown defeated Vanessa Karanowski by TKO in the first. So that was really kind of an interesting fight between those two as well. Tuff-n-uff's next outing will be Operation Knockout, Fight for the Troops, Randy Couture's event, and that'll be coming up on November the 9th. Tickets are $20, and they'll be at the Sam's Town Casino here in Las Vegas. In other action this past weekend, the UFC was hot with three female fights this past weekend. Michelle Waterson losing to Joanna Jędrzejczyk in the main event, with Waterson going all 5 rounds. ended up losing a unanimous decision. We talked a little bit about Waterson during Natalya's interview a little bit later on as well, and how great of a woman she is, and we don't know exactly where Joanna's going to be with her foot. By the looks of it, her foot is was damaged a little bit, so she'll be out for a stretch, probably 3 months if it's not broken. So we're interested to see kind of where that kind of goes. The strawweight situation is still a little bit crazy, considering Tatiana Suarez is still recovering from a neck injury. Joanna's, possibly recovering from a foot injury. So it'll be interesting to see who gets the next shot against Weili Zhang, whose visa issues have been resolved within a few days after it has happened. So she'll be able to fight in the U.S. sometime soon. Also on the card, Mackenzie Dern suffers her first professional loss. Amanda Ribas ended up outstriking her and getting a unanimous decision victory. And JJ Aldridge recovers and gets breaks a losing streak, defeating Lauren Murphy by decision. Over in one championship, Angela Lee retains her championship, and Mei Yamaguchi also wins, which was really exciting fight for Lee, who wins the fight under the wire within, I think, 20 seconds before the end of the fight, of the 5-round fight. Jiang Nang was her opponent, the current flyweight champion over at one. And Angela ends up retaining her strawweight championship. So that's really kind of interesting as well. Now, going to this weekend, there's a couple of things going on. UFC only has one female fight, as far as I know. The Korea card doesn't seem like it's really totally stacked. There's only like 5 or 6 fights on there currently listed, so which is very unusual for the UFC. They usually at least have 10, if not a dozen fights on there. But the only female bout this weekend is Rana Masredo versus Amanda Lemos. That is going to be on ESPN+. One fight I did want to note this weekend, just looking over some of the fights, because it is going to be relatively slow this weekend. At Jungle Fights, Natalia Silva, who is currently 10-5-1 and on a 4-fight win streak, will be facing Gabriel Marcal, who is 3-0 and currently undefeated. That'll be on DAZN. So if you guys check out Jungle Fights this weekend, that fight's going to be very interesting in terms of where they end up landing. Because if somebody gets a win on this card, then we may see them possibly at Invicta or the UFC in the future. So make sure you guys check that out as well. Now, coming up on Sunday, hopefully we'll be getting a stream for this, because I really want to watch this fight, is going to be Fearless Fight Night 5. It's going to be happening at the Sultan Mission Valley San Diego Hotel in San Diego, California. I was able to meet with a couple of the matchmaker, Harvey, this past weekend over at Tuff-n-uff, and he kind of let me know that this is an all-female amateur card that he had helped put together. There is going to be, I believe, 9 to 10 fights on this card right now. Really great lineup, including let's see here. Quite a few amateur debuts as well. Quite a few people that are really going to look to make waves as well. I think Jasmine is supposed to be on this card, but I don't see her on the card. Oh yeah, here it is. Jasmine Pouncey, who's been been having a little problems as of late in terms of getting some wins, but she's a very experienced amateur. She'll be facing Carolyn Kuriba, who will be making her amateur debut. So quite a few debuters on here, but the one fight that should be really highlighted is going to be between Andrea Ceballos, who will be making her debut, and my guest, Natalya Speece, who's currently 3-1 as an amateur. She is really looking really great. She's training out at Jackson Winklejohn right now, and between there and San Diego as well. She'll be fighting in her hometown. She's going up to 135 for this time, but she is an actual flyweight. She is really looking to want to become a pro relatively quick. But it's really interesting to be able to have talked to her a little bit about training over at Jackson Winklejohn, kind of, where her mindset is in terms of her career. Like I said, she's really wanting to be on the fast track to become a professional pretty soon. So if she ends up becoming 4-1, I don't think that's going to be too much of a thing as well. So, like I said, if you guys, I'll have more information if they stream this up on my on the Twitter at WMMA News, my personal one, and then I'll try to retweet over at wombatsports.com as well, so you guys can check that out as well. So, without further ado, here is my interview with Natalya Speece. Fearless Fight Night is going to be happening this coming weekend in San Diego. It's an all-female event, all amateur. Some of the future stars of what we could see in the division is coming up, it's a really stacked card. I am privileged to have one of the gals that are going to be a part of this. She's currently 3-1 as an amateur. Currently, training between Albuquerque, New Mexico at Jackson Wink and San Diego. So she'll be the hometown gal. She'll be fighting at bantamweight, but she's usually a flyweight, which will be interesting as well. Natalya Speece is on with us right now. How you doing, Natalya?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to be able to see another amateur all-female card coming up because, really we want to kind of start replenishing the divisions again. It always seems like once we get a new division up at the pro ranks, things get kind of drained a little bit, and we're kind of still in recovery mode right now. So it's great to be able to see a card like this as well. I mean, how's it for you to be a part of this card and to be part and fighting in front of your hometown crowd?
This is actually a really exciting card to be on. I've fought for many years, and I've always been one of the very, very few, maybe 2 or 3 girl fights on cards. And it's just kind of the norm, except now things are changing. And Libby, who is putting on this promotion, reached out to me in the beginning of this year and basically was like, I'd love to have you on my card. And to be able to be on an all-females card with amazing fighters on it, it was just an awesome opportunity. So it was one I didn't want to pass up, and especially being back home and being able to have family and friends and everyone come out and support back in my hometown. It's pretty awesome.
Now, you're currently over at Jackson Wink right now, which is great. I mean, first of all, they have probably one of the most predominant female teams to be able to work with the talent all the way from Holly Holm, Michelle Watterson, who just who fought this past weekend, and some of the amateurs that are down. I mean, an international array of talent as well. I mean, how's it been for you to train over at Jackson Wink with some of these talented professional fighters, as well as some of the up and coming amateurs that are there?
It was a big decision to make because I'm married, and it was a big sacrifice to leave the family for weeks at a time. But coming out here was definitely probably the best decision we could have made for my career. Not just because of the gym and the coaches, but because of these people and athletes that I've been able to be around, and I started out in the amateur class and was very quickly able to kind of let them know, hey, I'm here and I can hang with your pro girls. And it was, it's been such an amazing experience because we have people come from all over the world. We have women coming from all over the world, Russia, Lithuania, Germany, and to be able to train with them, the different styles, meet all of these women who are so similar to me, but so different. They're all coming to my door, which is very cool to experience instead of having to travel, which I can't wait to do too. Everyone's coming to Albuquerque, and we have such a strong group of individuals. We have quite a few different women in the different weight classes as well, which is nice. I have both smaller girls that are just, I shouldn't say that word, but, they're amazing in themselves. And then I have the bigger girls that, push me just as much. So I'm very lucky for the coaching, but also just for the group of girls I've been able to come in contact with.
Now, it sounds like you really kind of are dedicated to trying to make yourself into a professional fighter. I mean, to be able to make that decision to go to Jackson Wink is a huge step in terms of wanting to, reach that